The day I realized my own family was capable of such a deep, calculated betrayal, the world tilted on its axis. I remember the biting wind whipping through the mountain peaks, mimicking the turmoil in my stomach as I watched them unload their designer luggage from the car. They smiled, waved, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me, a storm of hurt, disbelief, and the first chilling tendrils of a plan for retribution taking root. They thought they were inheriting paradise. They had no idea they were stepping into a carefully constructed trap. If you've ever felt the sting of family betrayal, if you believe chosen family is stronger than blood, subscribe now. My mountain villa, nestled high in the Alps, was supposed to be my sanctuary, a place of quiet reflection after years of relentless work building my business from the ground up. It was more than just a house. It was a symbol of my independence, my resilience, a testament to everything I had achieved on my own. I poured my heart and soul into designing every detail, from the hand-carved wooden beams to the panoramic windows framing the breathtaking views. It was my haven, a place where I could finally breathe. Then, my daughter-in-law, Emily, announced, "We're moving in," with all the cheerful entitlement she could muster, completely disregarding the fact that she hadn't even asked me. Her husband, my son David, stood beside her, grinning like a simpleton, nodding in agreement as if this was the most natural thing in the world. The audacity of it took my breath away. I, Madison, had bent over backwards for that boy, always trying to make him happy, even when he didn't deserve it. And this is how he repaid me? The pretense started subtly. A weekend visit that stretched into a week, then two, little suggestions about redecorating, about modernizing the space. Emily's constant stream of complaints about the lack of space and the outdated appliances grated on my nerves like nails on a chalkboard. It wasn't about wanting to spend time with me. It was about wanting to control my space, my life. They treated my home like a timeshare they were entitled to, not a place I had painstakingly created for myself. I tried to be understanding. I told myself they were young, perhaps a little clueless, but ultimately harmless. I even offered to help them find a place of their own, a gesture that was met with thinly veiled disdain. "Why would we want to live anywhere else when we have this?" Emily had purred, gesturing around the living room with a sweep of her hand, her eyes gleaming with avarice. That's when I knew their intentions were far more insidious than I had initially feared. They weren't just moving in, they were laying claim. The situation escalated rapidly. Soon, my meticulously organized kitchen was overrun with their groceries, my quiet evenings were filled with the drone of their television, and my carefully curated art collection was being replaced with mass-produced prints from discount stores. I felt like a stranger in my own home, my personal space slowly being eroded by their relentless encroachment. David, once a sweet and considerate child, seemed to have completely transformed into a puppet controlled by his wife. He echoed her every sentiment, blindly supporting her audacious demands without a second thought for my feelings. He had always been easily led, but I never imagined he was capable of such blatant disregard for my own mother. I tried talking to him privately, appealing to the son I once knew, but my words fell on deaf ears. He was completely enamored with Emily, blinded by her manipulative charm, unwilling to see her for who she truly was, a grasping, selfish woman who saw my home as nothing more than a stepping stone to a more luxurious life. The final straw came during a casual conversation, or rather what Emily thought was a casual conversation. She suggested in her most saccharine voice that I should consider downsizing, perhaps moving into a smaller apartment in the city. "It would be so much easier for you, Madison," she cooed, her eyes gleaming with false concern. "And it would free up this lovely villa for us. We could really make it our own." The sheer audacity of her suggestion stunned me into silence. She was essentially asking me to give up my home, my sanctuary, everything I had worked for, so that she and David could live a life of luxury at my expense. It was a calculated move, a blatant attempt to manipulate me into surrendering my independence. That's when the switch flipped. That's when the simmering anger that had been building inside me finally reached its boiling point. I knew in that moment that I couldn't let them win. I couldn't let them take everything from me without a fight. The person I trusted most was one of them. The audacity of Emily's suggestion hung in the air, thick and suffocating. That night, sleep evaded me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smirking face, heard her saccharine voice dripping with false concern. The villa, once my sanctuary, now felt like a cage, the walls closing in on me, trapping me in a nightmare of their making. I tossed and turned, the weight of their betrayal pressing down on me like a physical burden. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the night. I got out of bed, pacing the floorboards, trying to quiet the storm raging inside me. The panoramic windows offered no solace, only a vast expanse of darkness that mirrored the emptiness I felt in my soul. I realized then that I couldn't reason with them. They were too consumed by their own greed to see the damage they were inflicting.
I tried talking to David again, one last desperate attempt to reach the son I once knew. I poured my heart out, begging him to see Emily for who she truly was, to remember the love and sacrifice I had given him over the years. He listened with a blank expression, his eyes glazed over, his mind seemingly incapable of processing my words. When I finished, he simply shrugged, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Emily just wants what's best for all of us, Mom," he said, his words echoing Emily's own manipulative rhetoric. "You're just being stubborn." His indifference was like a knife twisting in my gut. The son I had raised, the boy I had loved unconditionally, had become a stranger, a puppet dancing to the tune of his manipulative wife. That's when I understood that my attempts to reason with them were futile. They were too far gone, too deeply entrenched in their own selfish desires to see the truth. I had to accept that the people I thought I knew, the people I had trusted, were now my adversaries, and I had to fight back, not with anger or emotion, but with cunning and strategy. I decided to document everything, every conversation, every interaction, every subtle act of disrespect and manipulation. I started keeping a detailed journal, recording their words and actions with meticulous precision. I knew that if I was going to protect myself, I needed to have evidence, a record of their deceitful behavior that I could use to expose them. I also started consulting with a lawyer, discreetly seeking legal advice about my rights as a homeowner and the steps I could take to protect my assets. I realized that I was in a battle for my home, my independence, my very way of life, and I was determined to win. As the days turned into weeks, the tension in the villa grew thicker, more palpable. Emily's demands became more audacious, her manipulations more blatant. She started making changes to the house without consulting me, rearranging furniture, replacing artwork, even ordering new appliances without my permission. She treated my home as if it were already hers, completely disregarding my feelings and my ownership. David stood by, silently condoning her actions, his loyalty firmly aligned with his wife. I tried to assert my authority, to remind them that this was still my home, but my words were met with thinly veiled contempt. Emily would roll her eyes, sigh dramatically, and accuse me of being difficult and uncooperative. David would simply parrot her sentiments, his voice laced with impatience and annoyance. I felt like I was living in a hostile environment, constantly under attack, my every move scrutinized and criticized. They were slowly but surely trying to break me, to wear me down until I finally surrendered and gave them what they wanted. But I refused to break. I refused to let them win. I channeled my anger and frustration into my planning, meticulously plotting my next move, waiting for the opportune moment to strike back. Their biggest weakness, they thought they were untouchable. They believed they had me cornered, that I was too old, too weak, too vulnerable to resist their relentless assault. They underestimated my resolve. They failed to see the fire that still burned within me, the unwavering determination to protect what was mine. One evening, as I was working in my study, I overheard Emily talking on the phone. She was speaking in hushed tones, her voice laced with excitement and anticipation. I couldn't make out the entire conversation, but I caught snippets of information that sent a chill down my spine. She was talking about selling some of my valuable antiques, claiming that they were outdated and worth a fortune. She was discussing the possibility of taking out a loan against the house, using my assets as collateral, and she was making plans to transfer my business accounts into her and David's names. The realization of their treachery hit me like a physical blow. They weren't just trying to take my home, they were trying to steal everything from me, to strip me of my wealth and independence, to leave me penniless and alone. The depth of their betrayal was staggering, their greed and malice beyond comprehension. I felt a surge of anger so intense that it momentarily blinded me. My vision blurred. The glass in my hand shattered, sending shards of crystal scattering across the floor. But beneath the anger, a cold, calculating calm began to settle over me. I knew that I couldn't let them get away with this. I had to act swiftly and decisively to protect myself and my future.
The exact day they tried to end me, I exposed the truth. The weight of their betrayal settled upon me, a crushing burden that threatened to suffocate the last embers of hope within my soul. That night, the mountain villa, once my sanctuary, transformed into a gilded cage, each room echoing with the ghosts of shattered trust. Sleep offered no escape, only a relentless replay of Emily's whispered treachery, David's vacant indifference. Every stolen glance, every manipulative word, replayed in vivid detail, fueling the inferno of resentment that burned within me. I felt like a prisoner in my own home, surrounded by enemies masquerading as family, their smiles a mask for the avarice that consumed them. The world I had meticulously constructed, brick by brick, was crumbling around me, threatening to bury me beneath its ruins. I wandered through the darkened halls, each step heavy with the weight of despair, the silence broken only by the frantic beating of my heart. The panoramic windows, once a source of inspiration, now offered only a bleak reflection of my own ravaged spirit. I was alone, vulnerable, and utterly betrayed. They had taken everything from me, stripping me of my dignity, my independence, and my sense of self-worth. The temptation to simply surrender, to succumb to the darkness that threatened to engulf me, was almost overwhelming.
But even in the depths of despair, a tiny spark of defiance flickered within. It was a fragile flame, barely visible against the encroaching darkness, but it was enough. The memory of my own strength, of the years of relentless work that had built my business, the resilience that had carried me through countless challenges, refused to be extinguished. I remembered the sacrifices I had made, the obstacles I had overcome, the unwavering determination that had defined my life. And I knew, in that moment, that I couldn't let them win. I couldn't let them destroy everything I had worked so hard to achieve. I would not surrender my home, my independence, my very soul to their insatiable greed. The shattered glass on the floor of my study, a testament to my momentary lapse in control, became a symbol of my renewed resolve. I would not break. I would not be defeated. I would fight back, not with rage or despair, but with cunning, strategy, and an unshakable determination to reclaim what was rightfully mine. I spent the remainder of the night meticulously cleaning up the shards of glass, each piece a reminder of the fragility of trust and the importance of protecting oneself against those who seek to exploit your vulnerability. As the first rays of dawn painted the mountain peaks with hues of gold and crimson, a sense of cold, calculating calm settled over me. The storm within had not subsided, but it had been channeled, transformed into a steely resolve that would guide my every action. I was no longer a victim, cowering in fear and despair. I was a strategist, a planner, a warrior preparing for battle. I began to meticulously analyze their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities, the chinks in their armor that I could exploit to my advantage. Emily's insatiable greed, David's blind devotion, their arrogance and unwavering belief in their own superiority, these were the weapons I would use against them. I resolved to play their game, to feign weakness and vulnerability, to lull them into a false sense of security, all while secretly gathering the evidence I needed to expose their treachery. I would smile sweetly, agree to their demands, and pretend to be the docile, compliant woman they wanted me to be. But beneath the surface, I would be meticulously plotting their downfall, waiting for the opportune moment to strike back with devastating force. The villa may have felt like a cage, but I would use it as my fortress, my base of operations, from which I would launch my carefully orchestrated campaign of retribution. They thought they had broken me, but they were wrong. They had merely awakened a force they could never have imagined, a force fueled by betrayal, fueled by injustice, and fueled by an unwavering determination to protect what was mine. The game had changed, and they were about to learn that they had made a grave mistake in underestimating me. I plastered a smile on my face, a mask of serenity that concealed the storm raging within. I became the picture of compliance, agreeing to Emily's every suggestion, feigning enthusiasm for her redecorating schemes, and even offering to help her organize my belongings. All the while, I was meticulously gathering evidence,
documenting their every move, their every word, their every act of treachery. I installed hidden cameras throughout the villa, disguised as smoke detectors, air fresheners, and even a teddy bear in the guest room. The feeds streamed directly to a secure server, accessible only by me and a trusted IT specialist I had hired under the guise of upgrading the home security system. Every conversation, every interaction was recorded in crystal clear audio and video, capturing their true intentions in irrefutable detail. I even purchased a high-end audio recorder, disguised as a pen, that I carried with me at all times, ensuring that no incriminating conversation went unrecorded. During one casual conversation, Emily suggested we have my jewelry appraised, subtly hinting that some pieces might be better suited for her. I readily agreed, knowing that the appraiser I had contacted was actually a forensic accountant, skilled in uncovering hidden assets and fraudulent transactions. He appraised my jewelry, meticulously documenting each piece and its value, while simultaneously gathering evidence of Emily's attempts to manipulate and control my finances. The tension in the villa remained thick, a suffocating atmosphere of veiled hostility and thinly disguised contempt. Emily's arrogance grew with each passing day, fueled by her belief that she had me completely under her control. She openly flaunted her plans to renovate the villa, transforming it into her dream home, completely disregarding my feelings and my ownership. David, ever the dutiful puppet, blindly supported her every whim, his eyes glazed over with a mixture of infatuation and greed. There were close calls, moments when I feared my carefully constructed facade would crumble, exposing my true intentions. One afternoon, while I was reviewing the camera footage on my laptop, Emily walked into the study unannounced. I quickly minimized the screen, pretending to be working on a crossword puzzle. She eyed me suspiciously, her gaze lingering on the laptop for a moment before she dismissed it with a shrug. "Just checking in on you, Madison," she said, her voice dripping with saccharine sweetness. "Making sure you're not getting too stressed out." I smiled weakly, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'm fine, Emily," I replied, trying to sound as nonchalant as possible. "Just enjoying a little mental exercise." She smirked, her eyes gleaming with a hint of triumph. "That's good," she said. "We wouldn't want you to overexert yourself." After she left, I let out a shaky breath, realizing how close I had come to being exposed.
I knew I had to be even more careful, more vigilant, if I was going to succeed in my plan. I spent hours researching property laws, inheritance laws, and financial regulations, arming myself with the knowledge I needed to protect my assets and expose their treachery. I consulted with my lawyer, providing him with the evidence I had gathered, outlining my plan, and seeking his guidance on the legal ramifications of my actions. He was impressed by my meticulous preparation and my unwavering determination, assuring me that I had a strong case and that he would do everything in his power to help me reclaim what was rightfully mine. The anticipation of the final strike grew with each passing day, a simmering excitement mixed with a healthy dose of apprehension. I knew that the moment I exposed their treachery, all hell would break loose. But I was prepared. I had planned for every eventuality, anticipated every possible reaction, and armed myself with the evidence I needed to protect myself and my future. The exact day they tried to end me, I exposed the truth. I arranged a meeting with Emily and David under the guise of discussing my estate planning. I hired a professional mediator, a neutral third party who I knew would remain calm and objective, even in the face of the inevitable explosion. I also invited my lawyer, who would be on hand to protect my legal interests and ensure that everything was conducted according to the law. As they sat across from me, smug and self-assured, I felt a surge of satisfaction, knowing that their carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down around them. They lost everything. I just smiled. The smugness on Emily's face was almost unbearable. She had started openly discussing her plans for my future, casually mentioning assisted living facilities and downsizing my lifestyle. She and David even had the audacity to start interviewing potential caregivers, parading them through my home as if I were already an invalid. The final straw came when I overheard Emily on the phone with a realtor, discussing the possibility of putting the villa on the market quietly, without my explicit consent. They were so confident in their scheme that they had become careless, their guard down, their true intentions laid bare. This was it. This was the ammunition I needed. Their biggest weakness? They thought they were untouchable.
I needed undeniable proof, something that would shatter their carefully constructed facade and expose them for the greedy, manipulative monsters they truly were. I remembered Emily's obsession with designer handbags, her endless collection of expensive accessories, all purchased with my money. I also recalled a conversation I'd overheard between her and David about a secret bank account in the Cayman Islands, a stash of ill-gotten gains that they had been siphoning from my business for years. This was their soft spot, their Achilles heel.
I feigned a sudden interest in updating my financial records, telling Emily and David that I wanted to get my affairs in order. I asked them to gather all the relevant documents, including bank statements, investment reports, and property deeds. Emily, eager to gain access to my financial information, readily agreed. She spent hours poring over my accounts, meticulously documenting every asset, every transaction, every potential loophole. Little did she know that I was watching her every move, recording her every keystroke, capturing her true intentions on hidden cameras. I even managed to install a keylogger on her laptop, capturing her passwords and usernames, giving me access to her personal email account and online banking profiles. What I discovered was even more shocking than I had imagined. Emily and David had been systematically draining my accounts for years, funneling millions of dollars into offshore accounts, purchasing luxury items and investing in secret ventures. They had even taken out a second mortgage on the villa without my knowledge, using the funds to finance their lavish lifestyle. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, and utterly damning. The exact day they tried to end me, I exposed the truth. As I delved deeper into their digital lives, I uncovered a trove of incriminating evidence. I discovered emails detailing their plans to isolate me from my friends and family, to manipulate my will, and to ultimately seize control of my entire estate. I found text messages revealing their contempt for me, their impatience for my demise, and their callous disregard for my well-being. I even stumbled upon a series of encrypted files hidden deep within Emily's hard drive. Using a sophisticated decryption program I had acquired online, I managed to unlock the files, revealing a detailed plan to have me declared mentally incompetent, paving the way for them to assume control of my finances and property. The plan included fabricated medical records, manipulated psychological evaluations, and even a scheme to bribe a local judge to rule in their favor. They had thought of everything, meticulously planning every detail, leaving no room for error. But they had underestimated my resourcefulness, my determination, and my unwavering desire for justice. I was ready to unleash the truth. I was ready to watch their world crumble. With all the pieces in place, I set the stage for their downfall. I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer, Emily, and David, ostensibly to discuss my updated estate plan. I chose a neutral location, a conference room at a local law firm, ensuring that there would be no witnesses to their inevitable outburst. I hired a private security team to be on standby, ready to intervene if things got out of hand, and I notified the authorities, alerting them to the potential for fraud and elder abuse. As they arrived at the meeting, Emily and David were beaming with confidence, convinced that they were on the verge of victory. They had no idea that they were walking into a carefully orchestrated trap, a meticulously planned ambush that would expose their treachery and destroy their lives. They lost everything. I just smiled. The exact day they tried to end me, I exposed the truth. They were about to learn a very painful lesson. Never underestimate a woman who has nothing to lose. The meeting was about to begin. The moment they sat down, radiating that sickening confidence, I knew my time had come. The mediator, a kind-faced woman named Sarah, began by outlining the purpose of the meeting, to finalize updates to my estate plan. Emily, her eyes gleaming with anticipation, launched into a monologue about my best interests, subtly steering the conversation towards transferring more of my assets into her care. David, nodding along like a trained seal, chimed in with reassurances of their unwavering support and love. I let them talk, savoring the moment, allowing them to dig their own graves with their deceitful words. When they finally paused for breath, I smiled, a genuine smile this time, devoid of any pretense or fear. Actually, I said, my voice calm and steady, I have a few updates of my own to share. I nodded to my lawyer, Mr. Thompson, who stood up and handed Sarah a thick file, a compilation of the evidence I had meticulously gathered over the past few months. As Sarah began to read, Emily's smugness faltered,
replaced by a flicker of unease. David, oblivious as ever, continued to smile, completely unaware of the impending storm. A file contained everything: the hidden camera footage, the audio recordings, the forensic accountant's report, the keylogger data, the encrypted files, all meticulously organized and irrefutably damning. As Sarah read aloud Emily and David's emails detailing their plot to have me declared incompetent, Emily's face began to crumble, her carefully constructed mask of innocence shattering into a million pieces. David's jaw dropped, his eyes widening in disbelief as he listened to recordings of his own voice, spewing venomous insults and plotting my downfall. The room fell silent as Sarah finished reading, the only sound the heavy breathing of Emily and David, their faces now contorted with a mixture of shock, anger, and fear. I watched them, impassively, as their world imploded, their carefully constructed facade of love and loyalty reduced to ashes. "I believe," Mr. Thompson said, his voice sharp and authoritative, "that this evidence constitutes a clear case of fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit financial exploitation. We intend to pursue criminal charges to the fullest extent of the law."
Emily, finally finding her voice, launched into a tirade of denials and accusations, claiming that the evidence was fabricated, that I was delusional, that she and David were the victims of a cruel and elaborate hoax. David, regaining his composure, joined in the chorus of protestations, insisting that he had always acted in my best interests, that he had never done anything to harm me. I simply shook my head, a look of pity on my face. "It's over, Emily, David," I said, my voice soft but firm. "The truth is out, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." At that moment, the private security team I had hired entered the room, escorting Emily and David out of the building. As they were led away, kicking and screaming, I felt a surge of relief wash over me, the culmination of months of fear, anger, and uncertainty. The authorities were waiting outside, ready to take them into custody and begin the investigation. They lost everything. I just smiled. The fallout was swift and brutal. Emily and David were arrested and charged with multiple felonies, including fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy. Their assets were frozen, their reputations ruined, their lives turned upside down. The media descended upon them like vultures, eager to dissect their downfall and expose their treachery to the world. My story became a national sensation, a cautionary tale of greed, betrayal, and the power of resilience. I received an outpouring of support from friends, family, and even complete strangers, all applauding my courage and determination to fight back against those who had wronged me. It wasn't easy. The trial was a grueling ordeal, forcing me to relive the trauma of their betrayal and face their venomous accusations in open court. But I persevered, knowing that I was fighting for my future, for my independence, for my very soul. In the end, justice prevailed. Emily and David were found guilty on all counts and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. Their ill-gotten gains were seized and returned to me, restoring my financial security and ensuring my peace of mind. They lost everything. I just smiled. As I sat in my villa, surrounded by the familiar comforts of my home, I reflected on the events of the past few months. The pain of their betrayal still lingered, a dull ache in my heart, but it was overshadowed by a sense of profound satisfaction and empowerment. I had faced my demons, fought back against injustice, and emerged victorious. The experience had changed me, hardening me in some ways, but also making me more resilient, more determined, and more appreciative of the true meaning of friendship and loyalty. Revenge isn't sweet. It's necessary. It's about reclaiming your power, protecting your future, and sending a message to the world that you will not be a victim. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult, even when it's scary, even when it seems impossible. It's about survival. Would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more justice.